The history of bonsai here in Japan is one of the most fascinating aspects of the art. I think understanding this history is paramount in truly learning how bonsai has developed here in Japan as well as subsequently around the world. So in this episode of Bonsai-U, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be taking a look at bonsai as it originated in China, how it was brought to Japan, and how it eventually became Japanified, if you will, into what we now consider modern bonsai art. Bonsai, often seen as a quintessentially Japanese art form, has its origins in ancient China, where it was known as penjing or pensai in older romanizations. The practice began not as a decorative pastime, but as a profound philosophical and spiritual expression of the cosmos in miniature. The earliest pictorial evidence of penjing in China is found on frescoes in the tomb of Prince Zhang Huai, dating back to 706 AD. These frescoes depict servants carrying miniature trees and rocks in pots, indicating the practice of penjing during that period. While some sources suggest earlier evidence from the Han Dynasty based on paintings of potted plants on stands, the frescoes in Prince Zhang Huai's tomb are more definitively identified as penjing. By the Tang Dynasty, the art of cultivating living trees and landscapes in trays had become established. The term penjing or pensai referred to stylized, artistic recreations of nature, often including miniature trees, rocks, and figures. Penjing was practiced by scholars, Taoist priests, and artists, reflecting philosophical ideas about the harmony between man and nature. Paintings and literature from the period depict penjing displays in scholarly and aristocratic households. Penjing is often more expressive and narrative than its Japanese descendant, combining trees, rocks, water, buildings, and sometimes figures to evoke a poetic or historical scene. The emphasis was on philosophical interpretation, evoking not just natural forms, but the emotions or narratives tied to them. From China, this art migrated to Japan via cultural and religious exchanges, where it evolved into a uniquely Japanese discipline known as bonsai. This transformation reflects broader shifts in aesthetic ideals, religious influences, and cultural values between the two civilizations. Now, while it's true that bonsai did originate in China in the form of penjing and pensai, and that was later transferred to Japan in subsequent epochs, what can be said about modern bonsai art here, though, is that it is, in fact, a Japanese art form. And what we're going to do in the upcoming sections of this documentary is take a look at how the cultural and domestic influences here in Japan have impacted how bonsai art has developed over the previous 1,300 years since its original introduction from China. Japan's national consciousness has been shaped for millennia by its distinctive natural environment. The country's geography, a mountainous archipelago set in a volatile tectonic zone, along with its 4 vivid seasons, frequent natural disasters, and varied ecosystems, has created a powerful environmental context that permeates Japanese culture, art, spirituality, and collective psychology. Far from being seen as merely a backdrop, nature in Japan is regarded as an active, sacred, and often unpredictable force, inspiring a sense of reverence, transience, humility, and harmony. The landscape and natural environment of Japan have undeniably impacted the national Japanese psyche. Not only is Japan one of the most tectonically active areas in the entire world, but it's directly in the Typhoon Alley in East Asia. So in addition to having to worry about earthquakes on a daily basis, during the summer rainy season and in the early parts of fall, mass amounts of heavy rainfall can cause landslides as well as flooding around the country. Japan consists of over 6,800 islands, with 4 main islands: Honshu, Hokkaido, Kyushu, and Shikoku, accounting for the majority of the landmass. Roughly 73% of the country is mountainous, with rugged terrain defining much of its character. Japan lies on the Pacific Ring of Fire at the convergence of 4 tectonic plates. This causes frequent earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions, contributing to a cultural awareness of impermanence and vulnerability. Japan spans a wide latitudinal range, resulting in a diverse climate from subarctic Hokkaido to subtropical Okinawa. The country also experiences 4 distinct seasons, with highly celebrated transitions: cherry blossoms in spring, rice planting and monsoons in summer, vibrant autumn foliage, and snow in winter. Annual typhoons and seasonal rains dramatically affect agriculture and daily life. These conditions instill a sense of respect for the power of nature and its unpredictability. Shinto, Japan's indigenous religion, is rooted in the worship of natural phenomena, from mountains and rivers to trees and stones. Sacred objects such as waterfalls or old trees are believed to house kami, or spiritual presences. This animistic view promotes a deep-seated spiritual connection to the land, where nature is not conquered but revered. Concepts such as wabi-sabi, or the appreciation of the beauty in imperfection and impermanence, as well as mono no aware, or the feeling of a gentle sadness at the transience of things, have emerged from the natural environment's fleeting and fluctuating qualities, and have deeply influenced Japanese art, literature, and design.
Now, when I first moved to Japan all the way back in 2006, I knew at the time that there was a love and respect and reverence for nature amongst the Japanese people. But what I didn't realize at the time was how inextricably tied it was to the natural environment. With Japan being so tectonically active and with there always being a risk of earthquakes, this is something that is constantly in the back of everyone's mind here. And with the rainy season in the summer and the typhoon season in early fall, mass flooding as well as landslides are a real possibility.
Living under the constant threat of earthquakes, typhoons, and volcanoes has instilled a collective resilience and a calm acceptance of the uncontrollable. This contributes to a cultural emphasis on preparedness, adaptability, and social cohesion. The ethos of living in harmony with nature, rather than attempting to dominate it, permeates everything from farming practices to spiritual rituals. Environmental balance is mirrored in interpersonal relationships and social behavior, where cooperation and non-confrontation are valued. The Japanese calendar is rich with seasonal festivals known as matsuri, agricultural rites, and flower viewing traditions called hanami or momijigari. This attunement to seasonal rhythms fosters a mindfulness of time and shared communal experiences, reinforcing social and emotional bonds. Japan's natural environment, its rugged mountains, violent tectonics, lush forests, and shifting seasons, has fundamentally shaped the Japanese worldview. This landscape has cultivated a culture that embraces the fragility of life, the sanctity of the natural world, and the quiet beauty of the fleeting moment. Whether expressed through poetry, religion, or daily life, the influence of nature is inextricable from Japan's national psyche. It teaches patience, reverence, and the quiet strength to adapt and endure. A collective wisdom etched into the land and into the people who call it home. Rice is central to Japanese identity, not merely as a dietary staple, but as a cultural, spiritual, and economic cornerstone. The story of rice cultivation in Japan is not just about agriculture. It is a narrative that intertwines migration, technological innovation, political development, and religious transformation. To understand Japan's early history is, in many ways, to understand how rice became rooted, quite literally, in the Japanese archipelago. Rice originated in the Yangtze River Valley in China, where it was cultivated as early as 7000 BCE. Over millennia, rice farming spread through southern China, into the Korean peninsula, and then into the Japanese archipelago. This process involved not just the transfer of agricultural techniques, but also migration and cultural transmission. The true agricultural revolution in Japan came with the Yayoi period, when wet rice cultivation, or suiden saibai, was introduced. This transition marks one of the most significant cultural shifts in Japanese history. Rice in the Yayoi period was grown primarily in paddy fields, which required significant communal effort to build and manage. This necessity led to the development of more hierarchical and cooperative communities. In Japan, rice is more than a staple food. It is sacred. From ancient times, Shinto, the indigenous spiritual tradition of Japan, has revered rice not only as a life-sustaining crop, but as a manifestation of divine spirit, or kami. This sacred status of rice links the spiritual world with the agricultural one in a unique system of rituals, seasonal festivals, and imperial ceremonies that continue into the present day. Before rice arrived in Japan, the Jomon people practiced animistic beliefs, venerating spirits or kami believed to reside in natural phenomena, such as mountains, rivers, trees, and stones. As wet rice cultivation spread, agrarian rituals emerged to secure bountiful harvests. With the introduction of rice agriculture during the Yayoi period, the religious landscape shifted to reflect the life-giving nature of this new crop. Natural forces like rain, fertility, sunlight, and soil became associated with specific kami, spiritual beings who were not omnipotent gods, but rather forces of nature and ancestral spirits who required reverence and appeasement.
With these deep agricultural roots in Japan that continue into modern-day farming here, it's not difficult to see how this has impacted the development of horticultural techniques as applied to bonsai art.
Water, soil, pest, and disease management, as well as fertilization and pruning techniques in bonsai art, largely owe their current manifestations to the cultivation of rice in ancient Japan.